What's going on, guys? It's Anime1 back here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about what if Naruto was neglected and ended up like Obito part 9 of the series. And also, if you guys like the content in the channel, then consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. So let's begin the video. Welcome to my playground, the forest of death to you in that case. This is where you shall fight to the death to survive, she said, making people shake in fear. But first, everyone must sign these waivers, stating that Konoha isn't responsible for any death during these exams, Ko said as he started to hand out the forms. After everyone signed them, she continued, "Here, you will have a scroll, either heaven or earth. You need to get one or the other from the other team, meaning you have to fight. You won't know which scroll the other team has until the exam starts, which means you will have to be lucky to find the scroll that you need first," she said. "What about the food?" asked Toji. "There are many types of animal for you in the forest, just make sure you kill them before they kill you," Anko said with a sadistic smile. "And remember, the only rules are there are none. Use any kind of strange strategy, sick plan, killing, anything to get to the tower in 5 days," he said, then opened the gates for the Genins. Once the Genins was stationed at the gates, Anko's voice could be heard from the intercom. "Alright, brats, the second stage of the tuning exam starts now," and the gate flew open. "Who was going to hold the scroll?" asked Naruto, taking out the scroll that he had hidden in the pouch that he had right on his waist. "I think you should hold it," said Menma as he walked right beside the other two. Suki nodded in agreement. "I agree with Menma. You should hold the Earth Scroll for the team. You're too absorbent for your own good. Not many people will be able to get past your observation skill without you noticing." Naruto shrugged, putting the Earth Scroll right back in his pouch. "I guess you make a fair point." Naruto slightly sighed, darting his eyes left to right as he walked alongside his other two teammates, Suki and Menma. Naruto's eyes widened when he sensed something. This chakra, this feeling. Could it be? Naruto thought, increasing the speed that his eyes were moving around one side to another. He was tense. Why? It was obvious now. He should have known much earlier ago. Their assailants were here. "Suki, Menma," Naruto called out, abruptly stopping there in the tracks. The two abruptly stops in their tracks. He gritted his teeth for a moment or two. "Someone is here." Ground opened up and a huge snake came out, rushing towards them all. "Shit! Who could this person be?" Naruto stayed silent, looking around all of them. He caught movements within the trees. "Fuck! Keep our guards up." Suki and Menma nodded, seeing the expression on Naruto's face, knowing that this situation was quite a serious case. Naruto took a deep slide forward. "Come on out," said Naruto, ordering the person that was moving all around the trees that surrounded them to essentially show and reveal themselves. That obviously didn't work. Then a giant smoke appeared out of nowhere. The smoke disappeared. So, a rather disgusting creature. It was a snake, which was very long and slimy. The air around them distorted, having to have the trio use their forms to block away from the shockwave that came right along with the snake in front of them. "What the actual fuck?" Menma said. "What is that thing?" Suki said. "Shit," Naruto said. They all were pushed away as the snake made its way towards Team 7, and quickly and silently. The wind grew even more violent, shifting in power every moment that passed. "Going to get separated to different sides," yelled Naruto as he was thrown away from Suki and Menma. The last two were also thrown away to different sides. "So, he has finally come," Naruto said with a smirk. "Zetsu." Zetsu appeared with an Akatsuki cloak and an orange mask with a single eye hole in it. "So, when are you gonna interfere?" Zetsu asked as Naruto closed his eyes and put his mask on. When Orochimaru has given Suki the curse mark, and if I'm lucky, placed a five-pronged seal on Menma, Naruto said in a rather deep voice that sounded exactly like Madara's. And how do you know that Orochimaru will mess up Menma's seal? Tetsu asked. Orochimaru is a type of man who doesn't like to take any kind of risk, and the Nine Tails chakra is inside Menma. It will definitely be troublesome for him, so my guess is he's trying to suppress the Nine Tails chakra inside Menma. Naruto said, putting on his Akatsuki cloak as Zetsu nodded. You know, you're very smart as your grandfather, and your brain hasn't even developed to its full extent. Madara was right when he said that you would surpass him, Zetsu said as he vanished into the ground. Naruto stayed silent until he smirked and vanished in a swirling vortex. Suki was panting. She was looking around everywhere. She was scared. She had never been this scared in her entire life, except that moment when Itachi had killed her entire clan. And right now, Menma was standing in front of her, with 5 fingers in his stomach, and he was screaming in pain. She didn't know what to do. She fought. She fought with all of her abilities, but it was nothing to the man who was in front of her. She had managed to blow off the man's mask that he was wearing to show that he was facing the snake son in himself, Orochimaru. And just as he was about to run, he bit her in the neck, giving her the curse mark. Naruto appeared in a swirling vortex to see Suki knocked out and a curse mark on her neck. Menma knocked out, and his seal was showing that meant Orochimaru had placed a 5 elemental seal on him a few seconds ago, and his eyes laid on the man that had betrayed the organization. Orochimaru was showing his true face, and if Naruto had to guess, Suki and Menma had managed to take his mask off. Orochimaru smirked as he placed the cursed seal on the Uchiha. She would come to him for power, and he had placed the 5-pronged seal on the Jinchuriki. He was about to leave until he saw a swirling vortex. When the figure completely appeared, his eyes widened when he saw a black cloak with red clouds in them. The figure looked at Suki first, then Menma, then him. Orochimaru looked at the figure. In all his time in the Akatsuki, he had never seen that man, not even once. From a single glance, you could tell that man used a teleportation jutsu, so he could not escape from the man. The man would find him anywhere, so finding him here was the only option. Naruto looked at Orochimaru, spoke in his deep Madara voice. Orochimaru, it took a long time for me to find you, but now, Naruto said, flashing his EMS at Orochimaru. Naruto saw Orochimaru's eyes widen when he saw the masked man's Mangekyo Sharingan. A crazy smile came on Orochimaru's face as he licked his lips. I know I can fight you here without alerting the Anbu and the Anbu around the village, so I'll end this now, Naruto said in a deep voice that sounded exactly like Madara's, as his right Mangekyo started spinning, and the next thing Orochimaru knew, he had a kunai right through his chest. He saw the masked man behind him. That wasn't teleportation, and someone cannot be that fast. What the hell was that jutsu? Orochimaru thought as he coughed out blood. A silver hand, completely made out of bone, chakra, grabbed Orochimaru and brought him to Naruto's eye level. Once my genjutsu is finished, you will bring me the ring that is stole from the Akatsuki, Naruto said as his EMS started spinning and Orochimaru's eyes became dull. The ring is in the basement of the hideout in the hidden sound at the middle of the forest, he said. Did you hear that? Naruto said as Zetsu came out of one of the trees and nodded. I will bring it immediately, he said and vanished. Naruto released Orochimaru from his Susanoo arm. Orochimaru looked at Naruto with fear in his eyes. Who are you? he asked. Naruto just chuckled. I am the ghost of the Uchiha. Let's leave it at that for now. Go unless you want to die, he said as Orochimaru started melting in the ground. With wide eyes, he knew who this man was. He was the ghost of the Uchiha, and there was only one person with that nickname, Madara Uchiha. Naruto looked at Suki and Menma. His left eye focused on both of them as a swirling vortex opened and sucked both Suki and Menma away. A long-range Kamui does really come in handy, he said as he vanished in a swirling vortex. Naruto looked at Suki and Menma in his Kamui dimension. It will take some time for Suki to wake up, but Menma on the other hand, he said looking on the Menma. He will wake up soon. I better get my wood clones to get a scroll, he said as he created a wood clone. Go back to the forest and get a heaven scroll, he said, as the wood clone nodded and vanished in a swirling vortex. After 2 hours, a swirling vortex opened in Naruto's Kamui dimension, as Naruto's wood clone entered the dimension with a heaven scroll. Sir, I got the scroll, he said. Naruto looked at the clone and nodded. Good. I can now directly go to the tower, Naruto said as he grabbed both Suki and Menma and disappeared in a swirling vortex with them. After both Suki and Menma had woken up, they all were heading to the tower. The reason why Naruto didn't use his Kamui to teleport them all to the tower directly was that Zetsu told him that there were cameras at the entrance of the tower and it would be a troublesome thing to explain how Naruto appeared out of nowhere, especially to Minato, since the man knew the jutsu pretty well after his encounter with Obito. They had entered the tower without much trouble along the way. Naruto was actually quite surprised that no one tried to ambush him while they were trying to go to the tower. It was quite an efficient place to begin with. People who go to the tower are people that have 2 scrolls within their grasps. The ambushers just have to wait at the near end of their tower for their victims. But getting the scroll from their victims is a whole different story. If they're incompetent, they won't get it from them. Unless the opposing team is also weak. The ambushers just have to pray that the team they're going to face is not strong. A simple flaw in the plan like that is very dangerous and could risk possibility of them getting killed in the Chunin exams, though Naruto really didn't care about them. The less the competition, the better. He walked inside the Lendi Tower and saw writings on the wall right in front of them. There was a sudden moment of silence before they started to speak up. If heaven does not exist, enrich your knowledge, prepare for a chance. If earth does not exist, run to the fields and search for an advantage. Open the series of heaven and earth, and the previous way shall be redressed. Suki was the one that had addressed this to them. There are other moments of silence. It's telling us to open the scrolls, I think, said Suki, suggesting that they should open the scrolls. The two nodded, knowing that indeed was an option. I agree with Suki, said Menma. Same here, Naruto replied. He handed Suki the heaven and the earth scrolls. The two readied themselves for the worst. Remember, stay on guard, just in case. We may be on a trap over here. The other two nodded at the words that Naruto had delivered to them. Naruto and Suki stood frozen for a moment or two, before they threw the skulls on the ground. It landed just a few meters away from them. Ready yourselves, the three pulled out a kunai from their holsters, just as smoke started to seep out of the scroll right in front of them all. They were all surprised to see the figure looming ahead. Iruka Sensei, he appeared from the disappearing smoke. Iruka gave them a soft smile as he stood right in front of them in all his glory. Why are you here? Asked Menma. Well, I was tasked to be the messenger for you guys, said Iruka. There was a moment of silence before Iruka continued to explain what was currently happening. You three managed to complete and survive the second test, with just about 3 days remaining. They nodded, knowing the amount of time they had spent inside the forest. We could have done it much sooner if that snake didn't interfere, thought Suki, internally soaring up from thinking such a possibility of them completing in few hours. Say, how many other teams have been here before we did? Asked Naruto, curious about the information that they could attain just from this simple question. You would be surprised, only one other team has made it. Naruto instantly knew what this team was, although he didn't actually speak upon his thoughts. We would have to open the scrolls while we were inside the forest. What would have happened to us? Asked Menma, wondering what the consequences of doing such an action was. Iruka just let out a slight chuckle in response. I'll let you three imagine it. It's better that way. Anko sat right in front of Minato and Hiruzen alongside other four Jonin senseis. She had just been in battle with Orochimaru. He lost. Badly at that. Anko had a right hand over the curse mark that was on his shoulder. There was an eerie amount of silence in the atmosphere. What could he be after? Asked Asuma, using an already used cigarette in his mouth. Anko thought about it for a moment and recalled what Orochimaru had told her. A secret girl who inherited the last genes of the Uchiha. Before Anko could say those words, Hiruzen interjected with his very own words that came out from the deduction and reasoning. He is after Suki Uchiha, am I wrong? No, you're absolutely not wrong. He was inside. He had wished that it was incorrect and not the former, but the beggars had the chores. The air around them was tense. But why of all these times? Asked Kakashi. That is what we are also wondering, said Kuronai, nodding her head at the question. Hiruzen just let out a small puff out of his mouth. That is something both Minato and I am wondering myself. We can only guess as of right now. This brought up a question from Kakashi himself. It was a serious matter. Well, we have to get going. The tuning exams are just about done. Skip. 3 days later. I am Hayato. He coughed once right after that. Just before we begin, I would like to explain the preliminaries rounds. This caused many to raise an eyebrow that the word rushed from the man's mouth. Wait, we aren't done from the third test? Asked someone in the crowd. Normally, that would have been that. But there also seems to be too many people here. Even more coughs. Coughs followed right after the explanation given to them. Those who wish to drop out of the exams they wish can do that right now. Hayato pointed right towards the exit. It will be starting immediately, so any injuries you have will greatly affect your performance. This caused complaints from numerous Genins in the crowd. Man, what about the food? Thought Shoji, complaining about his empty stomach as usual, but it seems as though he had to perceive on this matter. Suki-san, I think you should drop out. Suki turned to Menma, shaking her head. No, I most certainly be able to keep going in this condition. Suki winced in pain as she felt the curse mark suddenly make her feel pain. That's enough reason for you to drop out. We don't know if that thing is endangering your life. Suki gritted her teeth as she looked right towards Menma. I told you, I can keep on going, she said, but you're injured right now. Suki growled at him with much annoyance. You don't tell me what I do. It's my own decision if I want to keep on going or not. She did not like to be ordered around by someone. Naruto was an exception. The reasons for this is quite obvious. Menma looked at his brother, hoping for him to back him up. Naruto raised an eyebrow at Menma in confusion. I think we should let her do whatever she wants. If she somehow gets seriously injured because of that mark, it will be her fault for being so goddamn stubborn. Naruto knew better to speak rather than these words. This reason was just for his true reasoning. If I see her fight, then that mark will surely do something. I want to know the ins and outs of the mark that Orochimaru gave her. Our fighting will be ticket to that knowledge. Naruto thought as he observed the two. What she does and what she wants to do is something you can't decide. You can keep on trying to tell her to drop out, but it'll most definitely not work at all. That was a good thing on Naruto's end. Menma soon gave up on telling Suki to give up. Suki looked at Naruto. Thanks. He shrugged in response. In the end, Naruto will gain valuable information that he can't ever forget in the future. To keep this explanation short and simple, there will be two people in the area. Then pointed towards the electronic board on the wall that was slowly revealing itself to the world. The two fighters will be determined through these electronic boards. They will then fight in this arena, as expected. They all nodded in response to those words. Many people were excited to fight their opponents. Some hoped that their opponents was going to be weak, while some hoped that their opponents were going to be extremely strong. Now, please look at the electronic board to see who you will be facing. Everyone present looked and nodded right towards the board. Indians waited for the names to pop up on the screen. Naruto just looked at the screen blankly. He wished he did not get someone to waste his time. Two names appeared on the screen. Uchiha Suki versus Akado Yori. Some felt relieved that they weren't going to fight the first. Others were disappointed. They wanted to get it over with. Will the two contestants stepped forward. The rest of you, please proceed to the observation platform above. Hayate spoke after coughing. The Genyans walked away to the observation area. Their sensei stood right beside their students. Naruto looked over at Suki, who had a slight smirk on her face. Oh, it seems like she was, well, too confident. Good. This will be good timing for me to observe that mark on her shoulder. Naruto thought as Suki walked down the stairs to the arena. Eyes darted from Suki to the guy, Yori. Naruto. He heard someone call out his name. Naruto turns towards the person who had called out his name. It was Kakashi. I would like you to ask a favor. He leaned in towards Naruto's ear and started to whisper what he wanted Naruto to actually do. After a few moments, Naruto nodded his head. I guess that can be arranged, though I don't get why you need me to do this. Kakashi's eyes smiled. She trusts you more than anyone else. If you would do it, it would be better for both her and us. Naruto sighed but nodded his head towards favor/request that Kakashi had just made. He looked back towards the fight. Man, he had already missed a few seconds of the fight. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the battle that was currently occurring. It seems Suki is not fighting full strength. She's trying to avoid using that chakra at all costs. Naruto thought. Internally, nothing out of this was information in his head. This probably means the curse mark thingy responds and reacts to her chakra. Naruto thought as he saw Tsuki dodge an attack from Yoroi. The outcome of this battle was very split. He can absorb chakra. Interesting. Naruto mused to himself, carefully eyeing each and every single move that Tsuki and Yoroi did at every moment. Though it seems it's not most versatile way. Having to actually create contact with your opponent can prove rather difficult. This was especially true if your opponent is faster than the user of the technique, but it seems to be working in his favor. Naruto thought as he looked at Tsuki's weak form. God, This was actually quite humiliating for Suki herself. Why is Suki-san not using her jutsus? Menma asked quietly. The other genin did not know of this development that involved the curse mark. The mark on her shoulder responds to her chakra. If she carelessly uses her chakra, it'll without a doubt activate and try to corrode her. Menma nodded, understanding what the curse mark was capable of. After a few moments, Suki was driven into a corner. Her eyes darted around everywhere around the arena. The distance between her and her opponent quite substantial. Her eyes finally landed on Naruto's. She slightly widened her eyes before dodging another attack from Yoroi. She widened her eyes not because of the attack from before, but from Naruto's gaze. Just from that eye contact alone, she understood what he was trying to say. And you call yourself a Uchiha. Pathetic. Of course, these words were influenced by her pessimistic self, but they were certainly close enough to the truth. That damn bastard, she thought, just barely kicking away the kick that was sent from Yoroi. Is this your way of motivating me, you lunatic? She pushed her hand into her holster and pulled out a kunai with very sharp precision. Suki threw her kunai right towards Yoroi at insane speed. That won't be enough to defeat me, Yoroi said, using a kunai of his own to deflect the kunai that Suki had thrown right towards him. He looked at Suki's direction and widened his eyes. Where the hell is she? Yoroi thought, tensing up a considerable amount before feeling a sharp and sudden pain branch on his abdomen. His eyes widened further as he was knocked away. Suki wasn't done and jumped in the air, all the while going through a set of hand signs. She inhaled in air around her. She widened her eyes. The curse mark was activating and trying to corrode her. She gritted her teeth at this development. Damn it, I got too carried away and tried to use the mark, she thought as she flicker flame started to cover her face. Naruto noticed this and internally sighed at Suki. Naruto continued to observe the predicament and the outcome of this battle. Even though Suki was indeed very handicapped, she would ultimately win in the end. Her skills far surpassed his, without any question, Naruto thought, seemingly satisfied once he saw Suki preserved through the influence of the curse mark. The flickering flames that threatened to corrode and run over her skin certainly went all back to inside the mark. She then exhaled and built up a chakra from within and sets a huge fireball towards Yoroi. Once she landed back down, she felt pain arise from the mark once more. Just with a slither amount of chakra left, she maneuvered her way around the abdominal smoke that littered throughout the arena that she and Yoroi were currently fighting in. Yoroi was on alert. The amount of smoke that was covering the arena was quite a huge problem for him. A bed of sweat slowly slithered down his face. Where is she? Here. No. There. No. Where? Yoroi thought. This was proving to be rather difficult to a very large extent. Naruto was actually amused by this, even though I can see it. I just know that Tsuki's trying to break him down mentally, Naruto thought, seeing the smoke clear out slightly. She was making her way towards Yoroi. It was way too paranoid for his own good. Yoroi suddenly felt a sharp pain enter and course through his face. Eyes widened as he got knocked out by Suki at the punch to the face. But it seems like Suki was far from down. As Yoroi moved together, a kunai was sent towards his eyes. He widened them just barely managed to dodge the kunai. It left a slight cut on his cheek. He panicked as he jumped up immediately. He seemed to be getting tired. He dodged a punch to the left. You then dodged another punch from Suki. He caught the side of this arm and tried to get hold of her to drain her chakra. You're done, Yoroi thought, reaching out her arm to have his plans become reality. But it seems like Suki came prepared and pulled out another kunai with her own hand. Not much time left to decide her next action. Suki impaled Yori's hand as he tried attacking her with. A wound appeared on his Yori's hand. Blood spattered from the wound onto Yori's mask. He was in complete daze. Suki took the advantage of this and jumped slightly in ears. He used her foot and brought it to his face, kicking him back to the concrete floor. His head bashed right on the ground. Even more blood escaped from his head, soaking the concrete with a dark crimson color. Suki landed back on the ground. Winner of the match by knockout, Suki Uchiha. The crowd cheered at the victory of Suki. The next match was Kankuro vs. Sino. Naruto just watched with a rather boring look. In the beginning, one could think that Kankuro was going to lose the match, but Kankuro ended up winning the match without any harm. Kankuro was a puppet user, and Shino thought that his bugs had sucked Kankuro's chakra. Too bad for him. The Kankuro that Shino's bugs are trying to extract chakra from, whereas just a mere puppet. Shino knew that without his bugs being efficient, he could not win the match. Thus, he gave up, yet failed to see how he would win. Puppet users dealt with quite dangerous poison. Naruto looked around the balcony to see all the others thought the same thing. The match was boring. His eyes narrowed around Gaara. It seemed that the Jinchuriki was getting impatient. Naruto just shook his head. Gaara was his age, and yet he was so different from him. Will Uzumaki Naruto and Inuzuka Kiba step forward, please? Hayate called out. Naruto smirked. It was so time.